let me just share with you my background. So I'm an HR practitioner. I've been in HR human resources for 20 years, both as a line HR manager and also as a consultant. And in 2013, I put up a firm. It's called Storm. It's a benefits platform wherein employees can exchange their current benefits into more relevant benefits. And that's attracted around 150,000 employees on the platform across top employers like Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, Nestle, and so on. So when we started servicing these employees, and we have so the past 4 or 5 years, we started uncovering a big trend, right? The companies we were serving, not all of the workers that worked for them were regular employees. We started finding out that for a chunk of the workers in a given workplace, a chunk of them weren't employed. They didn't have benefits. We weren't able to serve them. So, and that was a problem for us because we're a benefits firm. And we believe in the power of benefits and how it can help improve lives. But we weren't touching these contingent workforce or contingent employees that we began seeing popping up into the market. So we ran into this big problem, right? And we saw that trend. And that trend was because of the proliferation of job sites and job platforms like Upwork, Grab, Uber, freelancer.com, Elance, people were working on Facebook, on Instagram as social media consultants. The amount of people jumping into the gig economy was just incredibly high. You know? And there were freelancers that we began seeing. And when we did our research, we found that 1 out of every 4 workers in the world are now freelancers. And that number is growing. It's a $1.6 trillion industry that grows month and month on. And this, I think, is the future of work. And we begin seeing this right now. We begin seeing the proliferation of co-working spaces in all the major cities around the world. In fact, you see it in Starbucks. If you go to Starbucks mid-afternoon at around 2 p.m., usually 10 years ago, you'd find people conversing, having coffee, on a meeting. But now, you know what? There are a lot of laptops. It's pretty quiet. And there's a lot of clicking on the keyboard that's happening. Some people are even on their headsets. And this is what happens until around 6 o'clock, and then people go home. So this is something that's a bit new. No? And this, again, is, I think, very powerfully, is where the future of work, the mega trend, I think it's where things are going now. Now, how does blockchain impact this huge growing gig economy? No? First, it helps serve this new workforce. How? So, obviously now, freelancers are asking for cryptocurrency. They're beginning to ask to be paid in Bitcoin already. And that makes the process of paying a freelancer anywhere in the world much faster and with less fees. One problem that freelancers already are dealing with is getting paid at all. So sometimes if you talk to freelancers, I have a programmer friend, for example, sometimes the employer would just disappear, or they would have a debate on spec, and they won't get paid. But now that you have smart contracts, that problem will be a bit easier to manage from here on. So blockchain is helping serve that current workforce, but I think it's also going to inject a lot of steroids in that equation. No? First, I think you're going to see, how can I describe it? Companies having a workflow sort of manager that's automated, wherein it just, it could be done by a person or it could be done by a system. and it could just plan all the work that happens in a company, and it shoots it out. So the system just takes a look at your credentials on blockchain, trusts it, and sends out a bid to you. And then you just accept it. And when you do your work, you send the work over and you get paid. No? And I think that's going to be the sort of thing that will happen in the future. And I think things will be a lot more granular. No? So right now, the workforce, it looks very top-down. No? So there's your boss, and there are your sub-bosses, and it's like a triangle going down. I think we'll move into some sort of decentralized autonomous organization, a real DAO down the line, where you have just objectives that are released, and then specifications, and then they're just bounties, and then you just accept. And you see, oh, what work do I want to do? And then you go for that, and you just accept that. And the organization will really change. No? I think for one thing, you now have the power to choose, no, in this sort of setup. Normally, in jobs, we have like massive titles, like your COO, your head of marketing. And when you get that job, you do a lot of things. You do like 30, 40 things, some of which you like, some of which you don't. But in this very granular setup, you can actually pick what are the types of work that I like, what don't I like, and I'll just choose to work on the stuff that I like. And that, I think, will make things much more interesting to people who will work. I think salary will become very obsolete in this sort of setup, right? So a salary, you're usually paid one salary for an entire year, and at the end of the year, there's a centralized authority, your boss, which dictates, oh, is Peter worth the salary I'm giving him? If he's not, he's fired. If he is, then maybe we can maintain that salary or even give him an increase. But in this scenario I just described, where you could really measure the work and then you can automate the rewards, then that's going to look very backwards. Why am I paying you this amount of money where the work you did where you're not worth it this week, but you were worth it last week, right? It depends now on the work that you're giving, what I'm going to give you. And that's going to sound really a lot more equitable than giving you one single salary for an entire year. So freelancers already go through this, but I think organizations will take a look at that and say, I think that's more equitable. And given smart contracts, given the sort of technology that blockchain can offer, that's going to look very interesting for an organization giving salaries. So it's really going to change the way we work. Organizations, I think, would shift. One question I get a lot of is, so I work in HR, right? What happens to HR? So in this sort of setup, the human resources department, what happens to that? Will it disappear because companies are getting smaller, and then you have algorithms really just dictating the workflow? Will HR disappear and be irrelevant? If we take a look at the job description of HR, my favorite job description of HR is, it's the team which takes care of the people in a company, right? And it takes care of them through making sure you're empowered, making sure you're motivated, making sure you're compensated the right way, making sure that you're healthy. Those things, I don't think they disappear when we shift into the new economy, right? Those things are still there. Those are inherent human things that we need as workers in society, right? The need to evolve, the need to learn. We still need some help in achieving those and feeling those, right? But I think what will happen so those will be there, but companies, the way we think about them right now, might not be there. So I think what HR needs to do is to try to do that shift. Its market will change. Instead of getting its salary, instead of giving its value to the employer, to a company, it would need now to sell its value to the gig economy. Hey, freelancer, I'm a motivations consultant, or I make sure that you learn as you go along your path. I make sure that you're learning the right career competencies as you go up this ladder you've chosen. Then if you're HR, you're going to have to make sure that you sell properly. You're going to be part of the gig economy as well, right? If there's one danger that I think we have to be on the lookout for as this massive trend continues and blockchain just injects steroids into it, it's the danger of losing heart, right? So some people have called the blockchain and what it brings, they call it the internet of value, right? Have you heard of that? So from the internet of information, I'm so, okay, might as well. It's not working. I'm okay. Okay, trend, so these are things you talked about earlier, right? So this is the figures for freelancing, and this is the future of work powered by all these job sites. Companies will shrink. Talked about that. Talked about how blockchain will serve the workforce of the future and how it will push it even further into decentralization, further into becoming much more granular. We talked about an on-demand global talent marketplace powered by both AI and blockchain. We've talked about how the organization might change from traditional top-down to something that's a bit more decentralized and autonomous, where you can pick and choose what you want to work on. And then we talked about a bit what happens to HR. And this is where I ended, right? The danger is the loss of heart. I have a freelancer friend. He's an ERP programmer, and he jumped into freelancing, becoming a freelance programmer, working on Upwork, working for Silicon Valley firms. And that journey started for him 2 years ago. He has a wife and 2 kids. So, he was very happy with that decision because he's independent, he's able to work from home, he's able to work anytime, he doesn't miss any significant family event that happens. But a couple of months ago, he got sick. He got sick, and for 3 months, no, 3 months, not 3, 3 weeks, he was out of commission. The employer he was working with in Silicon Valley wasn't so sympathetic to his plight. And you can understand, right? There's no work done, there's no code that you submitted, so why would I pay you? So he wasn't paid. But the bigger thing is, he had to pay for the hospital expenses himself because he had to give up his HMO when he decided to go freelancing. And I think that's the sort of danger that, what happened? That's the sort of danger that we have to take into account and have to be careful with. In the internet of value, I think the temptation is it's putting all that value onto the work that's created, and it might be shifting from the person who creates that work more onto the work that's created and goes around in the internet through blockchain safely and with trust. We can all understand how we see that, but what might happen is our ability to care, our ability to show compassion, our ability to make people secure, that might be what's at danger. And that's where I think more creativity, more innovation, and more brain power can be put more to work, addressing stuff like that that will happen, that is already beginning to happen with this new trend that we're seeing. And this is why at Storm, when we began to see the problem, we also decided we wanted to create the benefits platform of the future. And that means, answering the question, how do we take care of this workforce of the future? We're a B2B company that works with these employees, but we see that powerful trend. More and more people are becoming freelancers and individuals. So that's why we're embarking on this project called All Care. So All Care is a benefits platform that's powered by the blockchain that wishes to make sure that crucial benefits like health insurance, life insurance, learning opportunities are made available not only to the employee, the traditional employee who enjoys them now, but to anyone and everyone who's a freelancer, who's in the gig economy, that's working for a living on their own. So that's what we want to be able to do. And what we want to be able to do is to unite this fragmented workforce. So right now, they're negotiating with providers as individuals. So when that happens, the prices, for example, for this health insurance coverage is really very expensive at $300. If you're able to get it at 100,000 heads, at 1 million heads even, because it's really the largest workforce on the planet, and you can't do that even with one country, then you reduce the price to 1/3 of the original price, allowing access. In our country, health insurance isn't even available in retail. So there are a lot of companies in the health insurance space that don't even give it out because it's very dangerous for them to transact with individuals. So that's what we want to be able to change. And we're working with some of the CEO of the two biggest companies in life insurance and health insurance in our country are on our board of advisors, and they're helping us create the product. So that's where I think the future of work is going. It's in the gig economy, and we're seeing it very powerfully. It's scary to some, it's exciting for others, but I think it's just going to be hella interesting. No? So sorry again for the technical difficulty. I hope I was able to convey what we thought, where we were, what we're seeing as far as the changes that have been happening to organizations and freelancing. And I hope that, well, if you have any questions about All Care or about the future of work and blockchain, then feel free to approach me. Thank you so much.